You remember the beginning, don't you? That intense, blinding rush where you finally felt entirely seen by someone else. But now, the physical connection leaves you feeling completely empty, drained, and strangely desperate for more. Why does the most intimate act with a narcissist feel like a psychological trap? What makes it so agonizing, yet impossible to quit? To understand this cycle, we have to look at the invisible strings attached to every single touch. When you are intimate with them, you aren't just sharing a physical space. You are entering a highly controlled emotional arena. It feels like love. It looks like passion. But underneath the surface, there is a very different, much darker transaction taking place. In the early days, they mirrored your deepest desires perfectly. They studied your breathing, your reactions, and your vulnerabilities. It wasn't about connecting with your soul, it was about gathering data. They figured out exactly how to make you feel like the center of the universe. And that rush of dopamine bonded you to them in a way logic simply cannot break. But then the shift happens. Slowly, almost invisibly, the warmth is replaced by a chilling mechanical rhythm. You reach out, but they feel 1,000 miles away, even when they are right next to you. The physical act continues, but the soul of the connection has been surgically removed. You are left staring at a stranger, wondering where your perfect partner went. This is where the confusion deeply roots itself in your mind. Your body remembers the intoxicating high of the love-bombing phase. Your nervous system craves that original feeling of absolute safety and adoration. So you keep going back to the source of your pain, desperately hoping to find the person who originally made you feel so unbelievably alive and cherished. It becomes a vicious biological loop. Your brain is flooded with cortisol from the constant anxiety, neglect, and emotional starvation. Then, when they finally throw you a crumb of physical affection, you get a massive spike of dopamine. You aren't just heartbroken anymore. You are chemically addicted to the unpredictable roller coaster of their shifting moods. Every time you pull away, they sense the loss of control. So they pull you back into the bedroom to reset the trauma bond. They use intimacy as a tool of absolute power, not an expression of mutual love. They know that if they can capture your body, they can confuse your mind just enough to keep you exactly where they want you. Waiting, hoping, and entirely breaking. You start to feel incredibly lonely in the most intimate moments. It's a very specific kind of grief. You are sharing your deepest self with someone who is entirely emotionally unavailable. They take what they need to feed their ego, leaving you feeling used, discarded, and profoundly empty. Yet, the trauma bond whispers that maybe next time will be totally different. But it never is different. Because to a narcissist, physical intimacy is ultimately a performance. It is a stage where they play the role of the ultimate lover to validate their own grandiosity. They are not making love to you. They are making love to the reflection of themselves that they see in your adoring eyes. Once they have that validation, they shut down. And that is exactly why the pain cuts so deep. You are seeking a genuine human connection, while they are simply extracting narcissistic supply. You are speaking the language of love, and they are playing a game of emotional dominance. Understanding this brutal reality is the very first step to breaking the devastating physical and emotional addiction you feel. Let's look at the actual psychology of what happens behind closed doors. A narcissist operates from a place of intense internal emptiness. They lack the emotional bandwidth for genuine vulnerability. True intimacy requires you to drop your armor and be entirely seen. But for the narcissist, being truly seen is their absolute greatest, most terrifying nightmare. Because if you see their true self, you will see the fragile, insecure core they hide from the world. So they wear a mask even in the most vulnerable moments. The passion you experience isn't vulnerable, it's heavily curated. They are hyper-focused on performing perfectly so they can feel powerful. The intimacy is entirely manufactured to feed their fractured ego. This is why the connection often feels oddly disconnected. You might look into their eyes and see absolute nothingness, a chilling, terrifying void. That is because they are not present with you in that moment. They are entirely in their own head, monitoring their performance and calculating the exact amount of supply they are successfully extracting from your body. They weaponize your physical desires against you. Once they know exactly what makes you feel cherished, they can intentionally withhold it. The withholding is never an accident. It is a highly calculated punishment designed to keep you off balance. By starving you of affection, they ensure that you will practically beg for the very connection they stole from you. And when they finally give it back, it feels like water in the desert. Your starving nervous system mistakes this breadcrumbing for genuine, profound love. But it isn't love. It is intermittent reinforcement. It is the exact same psychological mechanism that keeps gamblers addicted to slot machines. You keep playing, hoping for the jackpot that is never coming. During the act itself, you may notice how self-centered it truly is. Their pleasure, their rhythm, their ultimate satisfaction. If you communicate a need, it is often ignored, dismissed, or twisted into a ridiculous argument. They view your desires as an annoying inconvenience that distracts from the real purpose, validating their absolute supremacy in the bedroom. Sometimes, they flip the script entirely and focus solely on your pleasure. But don't be fooled by this sudden generosity. It isn't about your joy. It is about proving to themselves that they are the absolute best partner you have ever had. They want to brand your memory so that you can never move on. It is a deeply selfish act dressed up perfectly as selflessness. This creates profound cognitive dissonance in your mind. How can someone who touches you so gently also treat you so horribly outside the bedroom? Your brain struggles to reconcile the monster who insults you with the lover who holds you at night. This conflict shatters your intuition, making you doubt your own sanity and keeping you firmly trapped within the dark fog. You begin to compromise your boundaries just to keep the peace. You accept breadcrumbs of intimacy because the agonizing silence of their withdrawal is too much to bear. You start sacrificing your own comfort, your dignity, and your bodily autonomy, all to briefly reconnect with a fantasy version of them that actually died the exact moment the love bombing finally ended. They know exactly what they are doing. The confusion is not a byproduct of the relationship. It is the entire point. A confused partner is a compliant partner. If your body is addicted to their touch, your mind will constantly find excuses for their toxic behavior. They use your biological responses as the ultimate cage to keep you imprisoned in their dark reality. Then comes the inevitable shift. The moment where the mask slips so significantly in the bedroom that you can no longer deny the terrifying truth. Maybe it happens during an argument where they initiate intimacy to silence you. You realize, with a sickening drop in your stomach, that the physical connection is just another highly weaponized form of emotional silencing. Or maybe it happens right after the act. The warmth vanishes instantly. The second they get what they need, the temperature in the room drops to freezing. They roll over, pull away, or pick up their phone. The stark contrast between the heat of the moment and the sudden, brutal emotional abandonment leaves you feeling completely discarded, dirty, and profoundly empty. You try to talk to them about it. You gently explain how disconnected you feel. But instead of reassurance, you are met with cold, defensive rage. They gaslight your feelings, telling you that you are too needy, too demanding, or completely crazy. They twist your vulnerable plea for genuine connection into an exhausting, multi-hour argument about your deep flaws. This is the precise moment the trauma bond sinks its teeth into your soul. You are in immense pain, and your brain is screaming for comfort. Tragically, you seek that essential comfort from the exact person who just deliberately wounded you. You crawl back, apologize for having normal needs, and accept whatever physical crumbs they are finally willing to offer you. The bedroom becomes a battlefield disguised as a sanctuary. You never know which version of them will show up. Will it be the passionate lover from the beginning, or the cold, detached stranger who stares right through you? This agonizing unpredictability keeps your nervous system in a permanent state of high alert. You are always walking on very fragile eggshells. They begin to use your physical responses to shame you. If your body reacts to them, they use it as absolute proof that everything is fine and you are just creating drama. You clearly enjoyed that, they say, effectively invalidating your emotional trauma. They use your biological betrayal as a weapon to entirely dismiss the massive psychological abuse taking place. You start dreading the very thing you used to crave. Intimacy becomes a chore, an obligation, or a desperate survival tactic. You perform the act just to keep them somewhat regulated, hoping to delay the next inevitable rage cycle. You are no longer participating in a loving exchange. You are managing a highly volatile hostage situation with your own exhausted body. Even worse, you might find yourself initiating the connection just to force some tiny fragment of peace. You realize that the only time they are temporarily calm, the only time they aren't criticizing your every move, is immediately after physical intimacy. So you offer yourself up as a sacrifice, trading your inner peace for a few brief moments of quiet safety. Your self-esteem slowly erodes into absolute dust. You begin to tie your fundamental worth as a human being to whether or not they desire you that day. When they reject you, you feel entirely worthless. When they finally want you, you feel a brief, pathetic surge of value. They have successfully hijacked your core identity, linking your self-worth to their desires. And the most terrifying part? You know it is toxic, yet you cannot stop. You research narcissism, you watch the videos, you know the clinical terms, but the trauma bond operates on a primal, cellular level. Your logical mind is screaming at you to run away, while your addicted nervous system is desperately begging you to stay for just one more hit of false love. The collapse happens when your body simply cannot take the abuse anymore. You develop strange, unexplained physical symptoms. Chronic fatigue, mystery pains, severe anxiety attacks, and profound insomnia. Your body is physically rejecting the toxic energy you are allowing into your most sacred space. Your nervous system is officially crashing under the heavy strain. You realize you feel completely dead inside. The intimacy that used to spark joy now feels like an invasive violation of your soul. You dissociate during the act, floating above your body just to survive the painful emptiness of it all. You are physically present, but emotionally, you have retreated into a deep, protective fortress to survive the constant trauma. The narcissist notices this withdrawal immediately, but instead of showing empathy, they attack. They accuse you of cheating, of not loving them anymore, or of being deeply flawed. They play the ultimate victim, entirely ignoring the years of emotional starvation that drove you to this state of shutdown. They demand you fix the massive damage they deliberately caused. This is the darkest stage of the addiction. You are trapped in a wasteland of broken promises. You clearly see the monster behind the mask, yet you still grieve the illusion. You miss a person who never actually existed. The cognitive dissonance is practically tearing your mind apart. You are utterly exhausted, yet wired with an intense, agonizing trauma response. They might even start triangulating you with others, mentioning past lovers, flirting with strangers, or suddenly withholding intimacy entirely. They are actively trying to trigger your deepest abandonment wounds. They want you desperate. They want you begging. Because your sheer desperation is the highest, most potent form of narcissistic supply they can consume. You finally understand the brutal truth. They never loved you. They loved the power they held over you. They loved how your unconditional forgiveness made them feel like a god. Your pain was never a tragic accident. It was the required payment for their inflated ego. The bedroom was merely the stage where they executed their most brilliant psychological illusions. The physical connection was simply a tool of subjugation. It kept you tethered to a nightmare while you dreamed of a fairy tale. Every touch was heavily laced with invisible poison. Every word of affirmation was a calculated lie designed to prolong your stay in their personal hell. They extracted your vibrant light and replaced it with their crippling, endless void. The hardest pill to swallow is the profound sense of self-betrayal. You realize you handed over your most precious vulnerability to someone entirely devoid of empathy. You compromised your deepest values for a ghost. You feel profound shame for staying so long, for ignoring your own gut instincts, and for allowing your sacred body to be used as a simple battery. But you must stop blaming yourself right now. You were not stupid. You were beautifully human. You reacted normally to highly abnormal psychological warfare. You fell into a trap that was expertly designed by a master manipulator. They exploited your beautiful capacity for love, twisting your genuine compassion into the very chains that kept you tightly bound to them. The pain you feel is the devastating withdrawal from a chemical addiction. Your brain is desperately crying out for the dopamine hits it became accustomed to. It feels like you are dying of a broken heart, but you are actually detoxing from a deeply destructive psychological parasite. You must treat this exactly like an intense rehab for your deeply traumatized soul. Healing begins the moment you completely sever the supply. No contact is not just a boundary, it is absolute biological necessity. You cannot heal in the exact same environment that made you so profoundly sick. You must starve the trauma bond by denying them any access to your physical, emotional, and spiritual energy. You have to firmly close the door forever. The detox period will be absolute agony. There will be deeply lonely nights where your body practically aches for their touch. Your mind will play cruel tricks, highlighting the few good memories while conveniently burying the years of massive abuse. You will feel a terrifying urge to reach out, just to stop the overwhelming pain of the sudden, silent withdrawal. When that urge hits, you must radically remember the truth. Remember the cold eyes. Remember the sudden abandonment. Remember the profound emptiness you felt while lying right next to them. Do not romanticize a connection that actively destroyed your soul. That pain you are feeling right now is not love leaving your body. It is the deep trauma finally escaping you. You have to reclaim your body as your own sacred sanctuary. It no longer belongs to them. It is no longer an object for their twisted validation. Start reconnecting with yourself through gentle, loving habits. Breathe into the spaces that feel so hollow. You must learn how to feel entirely safe inside your own skin again without needing their toxic presence. Eventually, the heavy fog will lift. Your nervous system will slowly recalibrate. The constant, agonizing buzz of anxiety will be replaced by a quiet, profound peace. You will wake up one day and realize you haven't thought about them at all. The trauma bond will snap, losing all its terrifying power over your heart. You will finally breathe free and clear air. You will come to deeply understand that true intimacy does not require you to sacrifice your sanity. Real love is incredibly boring to a traumatized nervous system because real love is deeply consistent. It doesn't use withdrawal as a weapon. It doesn't leave you feeling entirely depleted. Real connection feels like a safe harbor, not a raging, dark hurricane. You survived a very specific kind of psychological hell. You survived an invisible war that nobody else could see. But you made it out. You are taking your immense power back, piece by beautiful piece. The empathy that they tried to use against you is actually your greatest superpower. It is the very light that will eventually lead you back to your true self. Forgive yourself for staying. Forgive your body for reacting. You were simply doing everything you could to survive a deeply calculated emotional predator. Your capacity to fiercely love someone in the absolute dark is proof of your beautiful strength. Now, you just need to turn all of that incredible, powerful love deeply inward and give it to your own healing. Never let them convince you that you are broken. You are beautifully rebuilding. You are rising from the ashes of an incredibly deceptive illusion, stronger and infinitely wiser than you ever were before. The pain was undeniably real, but so is your incredible resilience. You hold the ultimate power now. You hold the absolute key to your own bright future. The ultimate revenge against a narcissist is not anger or bitterness. It is your absolute, unbothered healing. It is walking away, reclaiming your sacred space and never looking back. You are no longer their emotional battery. You are a profoundly free human being. Let them rot in their endless void while you finally step out into the brilliant, warm light.